Hello AWC members. For those of you that I have not had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Kristy Fahland. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Messerly & Kramer, and I am here today to provide a little bit of guidance on the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act and what it means for small employers, particularly those of you with 50 or less employees. So today we're going to jump right in. It is April 1st, which is the effective date of the act, and we're getting a number of questions on what do I do if I am a small employer and what provisions of the act do I have to comply with. So the first question is how to determine whether or not you are a small employer under the act, and that is how do you count your 50 or less employees. So for counting purposes, you want to count not only your full-time, but also your part-time employees and any temporary employees that you have working through a temporary agency. All of those workers are combined. So keep in mind here, it is not just your full-time workers, it is your entire workforce, including temporary workers. Now, if you've determined that you are a small employer under the act, great, we'll keep going. If not, thank you for watching the webinar, and we will hopefully see you on the next one. For those businesses that are a small employer, the next step is going to be figuring out if I have less than 50 employees, am I required to comply with the new law? And let's be clear, there are two parts of the new law here that we are talking about. First is the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. Second is the expanded FMLA law. And the answer to the question is yes. Even if you are a small business, you are required to comply with the law unless you meet the exemption. And the important part here is that the exemption applies only to leaves for purposes of closings of schools or child care. There are other provisions of the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act that have nothing to do with child care or school closings, and you are still required to comply with those, whether you are 50 or less and whether it creates a hardship. So really the exemption here applies only to leaves taken because of school closings or child care closings. So if you have one of those leaves and if you have under 50 employees, how do you know if the exemption applies to you? How do you meet it? And this is where the Department of Labor has issued some new guidance, but we are expecting additional guidance to be issued as well. You can be considered exempt if an authorized officer of the business has determined one of three things. First, that providing the paid sick leave would not be financially viable for your company. In other words, you're not going to be able to meet your financial obligations. And these are my paraphrasing of them. Along with this video, we will give you a fact sheet with the actual language. But first is you can't financially afford to do it. Second is that the absence of the particular employee requesting the leave would cause a hardship because of that employee's particular skills within your company. The third way to meet the exemption is to show that there is not enough skilled labor so that if you provide the allowed leave, your business would not be able to function at a minimum capacity. For any of these three, you are going to need to have an authorized officer of your company, so your president, CFO, somebody who is authorized within your corporate documents to certify or to be able to make a statement that one of these three conditions has been met. For a number of you, this means that you're going to have to look at your financial documents, and we suggest that you do this with the assistance of an accountant and look at them and make projections. If you were to provide leave for a certain percentage of your workforce, what does that do? Look at your income, look at your expenses, and if you can say that your business would not be able to operate at even a minimum level and you have the financial projections to support it, and you have a chief operating officer or other authorized officer of the company who is able to certify to that, then you should meet the exemption. I want to note that we are waiting for additional regulations from the Department of Labor that will provide some more guidance to us on this. And so as that changes, we will update this information. As with all of the laws, these are always changing, so as we learn more information, we will certainly provide that. The final question that I want to answer is now knowing that even if you do meet one of the exemptions, question we get is, are we required to provide a written notice to our employees that has been put out by the Department of Labor? And the answer is yes. Even if you are a small employer, even if you are under 50 employees, and even if you meet the exemption criteria, you still have to provide notice as put out by the Department of Labor to your employees. That notice form can be found on the Department of Labor's website. You can go and print that document. It can be provided to your employees electronically, either by email. If you have a company intranet, you can use that. You can also post it in a physical location in the workplace, whatever works for your company in these times, but you do have to make the posting requirement. All right, if there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out. I hope this has been informative, and we are always here to help guide you through any of these new leave laws and as they continue to change. Thank you.